I still remember the weight of that envelope in my hands, heavy, like the secrets it held, like the years of silence I'd carried. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how I learned that family ties aren't always what they seem. The morning started like any other Sunday. I was reviewing patient files in my small medical practice when my mother's text arrived. Family meeting. 3 p.m. Important discussion about Grandma Aliner's estate. Everyone must attend. I knew what this meant. 3 months had passed since Grandma Aliner's funeral, and the family had been circling like vultures around her property ever since. Especially my sister Victoria, who had always been the perfect daughter in my parents' eyes. Growing up, Victoria had mastered the art of appearance. Captain of the cheerleading squad, homecoming queen, married to a successful businessman by 23. Meanwhile, I chose a different path. Medical school, long hours, building my own practice from scratch. My parents never understood why I'd waste time on such a demanding career when I could have followed Victoria's example. But Grandma Aliner understood. She was different. A self-made woman who built her real estate empire from nothing in the 1960s, when female business owners were rare. She taught me that success isn't about pleasing others. It's about staying true to yourself. You remind me of myself at your age. She'd tell me during our secret Sunday morning coffee meetings. Never let anyone dim your light, Sarah. What my family didn't know was that those coffee meetings weren't just about advice. They were about legacy. I parked my car outside my parents' Tudor-style home at exactly 2:55 p.m. Victoria's new Mercedes already sat in the driveway, gleaming like a trophy. Inside, the familiar scent of Mom's cinnamon potpourri filled the air, mixing with tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. The living room looked like a stage set for a power play. Mom and Dad sat on their leather sectional, Victoria and her husband James perched beside them like royalty. My younger brother Michael slouched in the corner, scrolling through his phone, trying to look disinterested but failing. "Sarah," Mom said, her voice clipped. "You're late." I checked my watch. 3:01 p.m. Actually, I'm right on time. Victoria smoothed her designer dress, a predatory smile playing at her lips. "Now that we're all here, I have an announcement." She stood, commanding attention like she'd done since high school. "As you know, Grandma Aliner's main property, the Victorian on Maple Street, has been in limbo since her passing. Well, I have wonderful news." She pulled out a document with flourish. "I've been talking with the family lawyer. Since I'm the only one who's married, with a proper family life, it makes sense for James and me to take ownership of the house. We need the space for our growing family, after all." My parents beamed. Of course they did. Victoria was giving them exactly what they wanted. A picture-perfect family to brag about at their country club. The papers just need signatures. Victoria continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I'm sure you all agree this is the best arrangement. Sarah's too busy with her little doctor's office to maintain a property like that. And Michael, well," she cast a dismissive glance at our brother. I sat there, letting her words wash over me. 3 months of planning, of watching them scheme, had prepared me for this moment. I reached into my bag and retrieved an envelope, thick, cream-colored, with Grandma Aliner's law firm's letterhead. "Before we sign anything," I said quietly, "I think we should review all the documents, including this one." Victoria's smile faltered slightly. "What's that?" "Something Grandma Aliner left with her lawyer. Instructions to be revealed only after certain conditions were met." I placed the envelope on the coffee table. The room grew still, like the moment before a storm breaks. "What conditions?" my father demanded, leaning forward. I smiled, remembering Grandma's words during our last coffee meeting. The condition was waiting to see who would try to claim what wasn't theirs to take. Victoria's face flushed. "What are you talking about? I've already spoken with a family lawyer," I interrupted. "Yes, I know. Mr. Harrison called me last week. Interesting how you forgot to mention our conversations, Victoria." My sister's perfectly manicured hands clenched into fists. "Open it," she snapped. I took my time, carefully breaking the seal. The papers inside were crisp, official, bearing Grandma Aliner's distinctive signature. "Read it," I said, sliding the document across the table, especially the last page. "I think you'll find it illuminating." As Victoria snatched up the papers, I sat back, remembering all those Sunday mornings with Grandma, all the lessons she taught me about patience, perseverance, and justice. The truth was about to change everything. Victoria's face went from confident to confused to ashen as she read. Her hands began to shake. This can't be right," she whispered. Mom grabbed the papers from Victoria's trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents. 6 months ago, I said into the silence, Grandma Aliner legally transferred ownership of not just the Victorian, but all her properties to me. She also left specific instructions about how the family would react and what that would reveal about their true characters. The room erupted into chaos. Victoria lunged for the papers. My father started shouting about family loyalty, and my mother burst into tears. But I remained calm, just as Grandma had taught me. "There's more," I continued, my voice cutting through their protests. "Much more. And if you're ready to listen, I'll explain exactly why Grandma Aliner made the choice she did." The story I was about to tell would shatter their perfectly crafted illusions. But sometimes that's exactly what a family needs. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Victoria stood frozen, the inheritance papers still trembling in her hands. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red, while my mother dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief, always one for dramatics. "You manipulated her," Victoria finally spat, her perfectly glossed lips twisting into a snarl. "You turned Grandma Aliner against us during those little coffee meetings of yours." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a video I'd kept safe for months. Actually, Grandma Aliner wanted to explain her decision herself. The family gathered around as I pressed play. Grandma Aliner's face filled the screen, her silver hair neatly styled, her blue eyes sharp as ever. The video had been recorded in her lawyer's office just 2 months before she passed. "If you're watching this," she began, "then exactly what I predicted has happened. Victoria has tried to claim the Victorian house, and your parents have supported her decision without consideration for fairness or truth." Victoria tried to interject, but Dad shushed her, his eyes glued to the screen. "For years," Grandma continued, "I've watched this family's dynamics with growing concern. I've seen how Sarah was treated, pushed aside, criticized for her ambitions, expected to give way to Victoria's demands. But I've also seen something else. I've seen Sarah build a medical practice from nothing, just as I built my real estate business. I've seen her help patients who couldn't afford care, quietly paying their bills from her own pocket. Meanwhile, Victoria." Grandma's face hardened. "Victoria and James have been living beyond their means for years. What this family doesn't know is that they've approached me multiple times for loans they never repaid. They've also tried to convince me to sign over properties to them, claiming they could manage them better. My mother gasped. Victoria's face had gone from red to white. But the final straw, Grandma continued, was what happened last Christmas. Victoria and James came to me with paperwork, asking me to sign what they claimed was a holiday card. I may be old, but I'm not foolish. It was a transfer deed for my entire portfolio, written in fine print they thought I wouldn't read. The video ended. The silence that followed was deafening. That's a lie, Victoria shrieked, but her voice wavered. James had suddenly become very interested in his shoes. I pulled out another document from my bag. Here's the deed they tried to trick her into signing. Grandma kept it as evidence. Would you like to explain this, Victoria? My sister's carefully constructed facade began to crack. We were just trying to help manage her affairs. She was getting older. She was sharp as ever. I cut in. Sharp enough to see through your scheme. Sharp enough to make her own decisions about her legacy. My father finally found his voice. But why you, Sarah? You've never shown any interest in real estate. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Really, Dad? Did you forget that I helped Grandma modernize all her property management systems 3 years ago? Or that I've been handling the maintenance coordination for her buildings while running my practice? Of course you did, because in this family, if Victoria doesn't do it, it doesn't count. But we're family, my mother pleaded, still clutching her handkerchief. We can work something out. Split things evenly, like you split your attention evenly when we were growing up. I asked quietly. Like you split the college fund evenly before giving Victoria my portion for her wedding? Or like you split holidays evenly before deciding Victoria's in-laws were more important? Michael, who had been silent until now, let out a low whistle. She's got you there, Mom. I stood up, gathering my things. The properties stay as Grandma Eleanor intended. I've already met with her management team, reviewed all accounts, and I paused, letting the next revelation sink in, discovered some interesting financial discrepancies during Victoria and James's brief time helping with the books. James finally looked up, fear flashing across his face. Victoria grabbed his arm, her knuckles white. What do you mean, discrepancies? My father demanded. I think that's a discussion Victoria and James should have with their lawyer, I replied calmly. I've already forwarded the documentation to the relevant authorities. Victoria lunged forward, her composure completely shattered. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. Yes, you are, I agreed. And that's exactly why I'm doing this. Family doesn't mean enabling fraud, Victoria. It doesn't mean watching silently while you try to steal from our grandmother. I turned to my parents, who sat shell-shocked on their expensive couch. Grandma Eleanor left something for you too. A letter explaining exactly how she felt about your treatment of both your daughters. Would you like to read it now, or should I have it delivered with the rest of the legal documentation? My mother burst into fresh tears. My father's face had moved from red to purple. You'll regret this, Victoria hissed. We're not done. I smiled, remembering Grandma Eleanor's words from our last coffee meeting. Actually, Victoria, we are. But don't worry. I'll make sure the Victorians' new owners maintain it beautifully. New owners? James sputtered. What do you mean? I mean, I'm converting it into a medical residence for doctors in training. Affordable housing for people who actually want to help others. Grandma Eleanor loved that idea. As I walked toward the door, I heard Victoria's carefully curated world continuing to crumble behind me. But I wasn't finished. There was one more revelation to come, one that would shake this family to its very foundation. I turned back one last time. Oh, and Victoria, you might want to check your mail tomorrow. There's something about your perfect marriage that Grandma Alina discovered during her final investigation. Something I think Mom and Dad will find very interesting. The color drained from both Victoria and James's faces. They knew exactly what I meant, and tomorrow, everyone else would know too. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, but the storm I'd set in motion was just beginning to break. I sat in my office, reviewing patient files when my phone started buzzing. First my mother, then my father, then a stream of family friends and relatives. I let them all go to voicemail. They'd had years to listen to me. Now it was my turn to control the conversation. At exactly 9:00 a.m., I knew the certified letters had been delivered. I timed everything perfectly, just as Grandma Alina had taught me. Timing, Sarah, she'd said during one of our last meetings, is the difference between justice and revenge. The first text came from Michael. Holy shit, sis. You weren't kidding about Victoria's marriage. Mom's having a meltdown. I could imagine the scene at my parents' house as they read the private investigator's report Grandma Alina had commissioned before her death. The report revealed that James and Victoria's perfect marriage was built on a foundation of lies. Not only had James been embezzling from his company, which explained their mysterious wealth, but he had a second family in Boston, a wife and 2 children predating his marriage to Victoria. The proof was irrefutable. Marriage certificates, birth certificates, bank statements showing regular transfers, and photos of James at his other son's baseball games just last month. Victoria had to have known. The timeline proved she discovered the truth 3 years ago, but chose to maintain the facade, rather than lose her status as the family's perfect daughter. My phone rang again. This time, it was James. What do you want? I answered coolly. Listen, he said, his voice desperate. We can make a deal. I have connections, money. Stolen money, I interrupted. And no, we can't make a deal. The SEC has already been notified about your creative accounting at work. Grandma Alina made sure of that before she died. He hung up. Seconds later, Victoria's name flashed on my screen. I let it ring. Instead of answering, I opened my email and sent a pre-written message to our extended family, the country club board where my parents were members, and Victoria's social circle. Not to be cruel, but to ensure the truth couldn't be buried this time. Dear friends and family, in light of recent revelations about fraud, bigamy, and attempted theft from our late grandmother's estate, I feel compelled to share the complete documentation of these events. Attached you'll find verified records that may help explain any sudden changes in Victoria and James's social status or living situation. The truth, though painful, is necessary. Regards, Sarah Mitchell, M.D. Within an hour, my parents' house had become ground zero for a Category 5 hurricane of scandal. Victoria's carefully curated world was unraveling thread by thread. At 2:00 p.m., my office door opened. I looked up to find my father standing there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. You knew, he said quietly. You knew everything. Grandma Alina knew everything. I corrected him. I just helped her document it. He sank into the chair across from my desk. Your mother, she's not handling this well. And how did she handle it when Victoria stole my college fund? Or when she kicked me out for choosing medical school over the husband Victoria picked for me? He flinched. We thought we were doing what was best. No, I cut him off. You did what was easiest. Supporting Victoria was always easier then acknowledging that I might have chosen a better path. Can we? He hesitated. Can we fix this? I pulled out another envelope, the last one. Grandma Aliner thought you might ask that. She left this for you and Mom. It's not just a letter this time. It's a choice. He took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside, I continued, you'll find 2 documents. One is a commitment to family therapy, fully paid for by Grandma's estate. The other is a complete severance of family ties, including removal from all trusts and family accounts. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. Grandma Aliner believed in second chances, but she also believed in earning them. You have 24 hours to decide. Do you want to rebuild this family the right way? Or do you want to cling to the lies you've told yourselves? He stared at the envelope for a long moment. And Victoria has her own choice to make. The evidence of James's fraud has already been submitted to the authorities. She can cooperate with the investigation or go down with him. That's her decision. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Victoria just tried to access her offshore accounts. They're frozen. She's screaming about buying a ticket to Boston to kill that bastard. Should I call someone? I smiled slightly. Justice has its own timeline, I told my father. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have patients waiting. He stood slowly, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. At the door, he paused. We really messed up, didn't we? Yes, I said simply. But that's not the important part. The important part is what you do next. After he left, I walked to my office window, looking out at the city Grandma Aliner had helped build. The Victorian house stood in the distance, its elegant spires reaching toward the sky. By next month, it would be full of young doctors, starting their careers with the same determination I'd had. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Victoria. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. I typed back a single line. No, Victoria. You did that yourself. I just turned on the lights. Then I switched off my phone, picked up my next patient's file, and got back to work. Because that's what Grandma Aliner taught me. Success isn't about destroying others. It's about building something meaningful from the ashes of what they tried to destroy in you. 3 months later, I sat in my favorite coffee shop, the same one where Grandma Aliner and I used to meet. My parents had chosen therapy, though Victoria hadn't spoken to any of us since James's arrest. Michael had moved into one of the smaller properties, returning to college with a new appreciation for honest work. As I sipped my coffee, I opened Grandma Aliner's journal, her last gift to me. On the final page, she'd written, Dearest Sarah, remember that strength isn't about having power over others. It's about having the courage to stand firm when others try to take your power away. You've always been my true heir, not because of what you'll inherit, but because of what you've built. Keep building, keep healing, keep standing tall. Love, Grandma Aliner. I closed the journal, smiling as I watched the sunrise paint the sky in shades of possibility. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what's written in a will. It's the strength to finally stand up and say, no more. The Victorian house stood proud against the morning light, its windows gleaming with promise. Inside, young doctors were already starting their days, carrying forward the legacy of healing and hope that had always been my true inheritance. And somewhere, I knew, Grandma Aliner was smiling.